Read these in your spare time? We got ourselves an X-Men fan.
The Mutants are coming sooner rather than later in the MCU. With Ms. Marvel and Namor being introduced as mutants, it's clear that we'll be getting more of them in the near future. I think Phase 5 has the chance to introduce a lot more mutants in the MCU, but the question becomes, where exactly? Today, I'll look at the Phase 5 projects and see just who is most likely to show up next. Cyclops, Beast, Gambit, any other mutants? I'm talking about a lot of them right now. Alright, I have to start with the obvious one first. Ryan Reynolds melted our minds recently with the reveal that Hugh Jackman will be back playing Wolverine in the now confirmed Deadpool 3. Wow, I knew they always wanted to do it, but I never thought it would actually happen. This movie has a tricky release date where right now it's slotted right in between Thunderbolts, which was announced as the end of Phase 5, and the Fantastic Four, which was announced as the start of Phase 6. Isn't it just like Deadpool to exist in an awkward place? Given the implications of bringing Deadpool and Jackman's Wolverine over to the MCU, as of now, I'm treating Deadpool 3 as the end of Phase 5. And really, if you were looking for the movie with the most mutants to show up, you'd be smart to bet on Deadpool 3 given its history. So the question becomes, besides Logan, what other mutants have the chance to show up? Could we see James Marsden reprise his Cyclops role? That would be a great way to not only give that character a better ending than the one we saw in X-Men The Last Stand, but also give us some great banter between Logan and Scott. Could we see the new permanent Wolverine be introduced in this film alongside Jackman's OG? I've been thinking about it, and I actually sort of like that idea. Having some sort of wacky adventure where Jackman's Wolverine and whoever the new Wolverine is interact and sort of pass the torch in a sense would be a great way to appease fans who think that Jackman should just be in the MCU permanently now. So besides OG Wolverine, those are the two mutants I'd like to see pop up the most in Deadpool 3. So I had to start with Deadpool because he's Deadpool and he'd jump out of my screen and shove 30,000 chimichangas in my mouth if I didn't, but now I can go in more chronological order. I'll be going through each Phase 5 project and speculating which mutant would be best suited for that movie or TV show. So let's start at the beginning of Phase 5 with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This is going to be the movie that fully introduces Kang the Conqueror and all the chaos he's going to bring throughout Phase 5 and Phase 6.
I guess that counts for something.
And I think this is actually a good opportunity to bring in one of the first mutants ever who also has ties with Kang. That's right, I'm talking about Apocalypse. So in the comics, when we first meet Kang, he's a time traveler who's gone back in time and taken over ancient Egypt and called himself Ramatut. There, since he knows all about En-Sabah-Nur, aka Apocalypse, and tries to basically get the young mutant over to his side, only to be thwarted by a whole range of reasons. Anyways, what's important is that Kang and Apocalypse have a connection that the MCU should use. If Quantumania can prove to be a time travel adventure of sorts, then maybe our heroes can briefly see Kang in the past messing with the timeline to make himself more powerful. Here's my idea. What if the MCU throws all their established rules about time travel out the window and establishes new rules? What if in Quantumania we see Kang go back to the past, give Apocalypse the tools to thrive, and that action causes a ripple effect throughout the timeline, changing the future where mutants now exist in the MCU permanently in today's time? That would be effective for a few reasons. It would allow the MCU to establish that Kang is incredibly powerful and can bend the rules of time travel to his will. It would bring the mutants into the fight against Kang, and it would provide a good reason to have mutants in our universe now without having to explain too much about where they were throughout the first 3 phases. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 promises to be an emotionally charged, hilarious ending for our favorite bunch of losers. No, not losers as in losers, but losers as in people who have lost a lot. Anyways, I think they're in a unique position to introduce a pretty powerful mutant villain into the MCU. We know the High Evolutionary will be the main bad guy of Volume 3. The High Evolutionary is a genius who altered his own genetic makeup so much that he basically evolved into a higher being. And given that Rocket Rocket was experimented on and made into who he is now, I would bet Peter Quill's prized Zune that they'll make it so High Evolutionary was partially responsible for the creation of Rocket Raccoon. But I think this setup ultimately allows another genetic altering supervillain to be introduced, and that's Mr. Sinister. Yes, he isn't an official mutant, but he's so closely tied with mutants that I think he's okay to include. Mr. Sinister has a funny history in live action. In the scattered mess of the Fox universe, it was clear that they were trying very hard to build up to Mr. Sinister as the next overarching big bad, but that plan was never quite able to come to fruition. His real name is Nathaniel Essex, and he was a scientist who was obsessed with engineering the perfect race of superhumans, who, thanks to an assist from Apocalypse, started experimenting on himself to make himself more powerful. And because that's so similar to High Evolutionary, I'm trying to think of the best way around that. It's hard to introduce High Evolutionary now and then Mr. Sinister later, so to kill two birds with one stone, why not introduce them at the same time? Whenever we learn about High Evolutionary's backstory, let's have him interact with Mr. Sinister. Maybe the two were partners at one point before going on to do more villainous separate things. He doesn't have to have a big part, but something small connecting those two genetic altering supervillains would be a fun thing for the MCU to do. The Marvels is up next, and it promises to unite three very different heroes into one movie. Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and Spectrum will all be united to fight against evil, and I hope the movie is awesome. First reaction to the footage seems incredibly exciting, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds. But I also think the movie is a great opportunity to introduce Rogue into the MCU. The mutant has a big history with Carol Danvers, and the two have quite an epic rivalry. During one of their encounters, Rogue held onto Carol for too long and essentially took her powers and wiped all of her memories. Bummer. Anyways, I really do believe Rogue could have a place in the Marvels. The movie sets up the conflict of whenever one of the three main characters uses their powers, they switch places, causing a lot of confusion. So the movie sounds like they need to work together to use powers in an effective way, and I could see one solution for a short time being to drain their powers completely. See where I'm going with this? Rogue is the perfect mutant to introduce that could sap powers away from Captain Marvel, making it so the body switching stops. That could be fun, right? So I think Blade would be one of the heroes on Earth who already knows about the existence of mutants, right? I mean, he seems to be operating on a semi-secret basis, and presumably he's been keeping the world safe from vampires for a very long time. I could see a situation where he's been hunting down vampires only to discover mutants instead. It would position Blade as a key player in the next few phases, as he has a knowledge and understanding of the world that others simply don't. I mean, on the flip side, the Blade project could be a total Curse of the Mutants adaptation. In that comic storyline, a good amount of people, including the mutant Jubilee, is covered in vampire converting blood, so the X-Men and Blade team up to hunt down Dracula's son. Yeah, it's pretty fun. So yes, I do believe Blade and the mutants could work together in a film just because I think their stories could be parallel to each other. Mutants are usually outcasts. Blade is usually an outcast. They totally bond. Captain America New World Order has announced the Leader will be the big bad villain. In the comics, the Leader is a hyper-intelligent adversary whose big brain and bigger head is a serious headache for everyone. And yeah, Sam Wilson is smart, but he's not one of those smartest people on the planet type of guys. So if the bad guy is a smart cookie, then why couldn't Sam recruit his own smart cookie to help him out? If Hulk isn't available for the story because he's off on his own adventure, might I suggest Hank McCoy, aka Beast, as a suitable replacement? Hank is usually called one of the 10 smartest people in the world, and the fact that he's big and blue and can tear you apart limb from limb is also a fun character trait. I'm just saying, when you're facing a big smart guy, it helps to have another big smart guy in your corner. And I think Captain America and Beast could be a fun pairing that introduces Cap to the world of mutants and sets up a character arc where he tries to help them out. Thunderbolts is the last movie of Phase 5, you know, not counting Deadpool 3, and it has to be an epic conclusion. The characters of the Thunderbolts were recently announced, and they include Yelena, Red Guardian, Bucky Barnes, Taskmaster, US Agent, Ghost, and with Valentina Allegra de Fontaine presumably leading from afar. And as much as I love Bucky and want him to have his chance to shine, I don't necessarily want to see him as a team leader at first. Not because I don't like him or anything, but because being a team leader is a lot of work. work. And I want Bucky to have it easy after everything he's gone through. And that sets up another mutant to join the team to be the official leader of the group. That's right, I want Cyclops on the Thunderbolts. The Fox series really did a disservice to the character by not highlighting how great of a leader Cyclops is supposed to be, and putting him as the leader of the Thunderbolts team first would be a great way to show off this skill. I mean, if anyone can rein in all these crazy individuals, they would have to be a great leader, right? And then the end of the movie could be Cyclops relinquishing control of the group to Bucky or Yelena and going off to lead the X-Men. I just want a cool Cyclops in a cool movie, okay? Alright, this one is a short one. Secret Invasion is about to introduce a shape-shifting Skrull army, so why not throw in a famous shape-shifting mutant? Put Mystique in Secret Invasion. And here's the thing, doesn't Mystique feel like she'd fit in this plot? Mystique is usually depicted in the comics as an extremist who wants mutants to thrive and has embarked on a whole range of secret missions. Couldn't you see a situation where Nick Fury says that now that shape-shifting Skrulls are everywhere, he reveals he has his own shapeshifter working for him? Maybe that's too convenient. Maybe just the reveal that Skrulls are shapeshifters and invading the planet allows Mystique to feel more comfortable stepping out of the shadows? The Echo series promises to explore more of Maya Lopez's life, and if they really wanted to, I think they could highlight more Native American representation and explore that more in the MCU. We know that Echo is depicted as coming from the Cheyenne tribe in the comics, but I think you could also use this opportunity to introduce James Proudstar, an Apache who was first known as Thunderbird and then as the hero Warpath. In the comics, his mutant ability is basically being really freaking big and strong. He's like over 7 feet tall and his muscles have muscles. There's not a ton of Native American representation in Marvel Comics, but the MCU could use Echo as a launch pad to explore more of those stories. Loki Season 2 promises to be wild, and due to the nature of different universes and the sacred timeline and the whole king of it all, I would love to see them bring in Cable to the mix. Cable was obviously in Deadpool 2, but now his future seems a little murky, with Deadpool finding a new lovable grump as a best friend in Wolverine in Deadpool 3. I doubt Cable is going to come back, but he shouldn't be gone forever. Wouldn't it be awesome to see Josh Brolin's Cable teamed up with Loki as they battle past and future threats? With the TVA seemingly taken over by Kang at the end of Loki Season 1, the Trickster God will need new allies, and I think someone like Cable would work well in that story. Maybe it's the same version of Cable from Deadpool 2, or maybe it's a new one, still played by Josh Brolin of course, who comes from a devastated future timeline that Kang has destroyed. I just think Loki and Mobius would have a fun dynamic with the uber tough Cable, don't you think? Ironheart will appear in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and it's revealed she'll have close ties with Wakanda. Now, I can't include that movie since it's Phase 4, but Ironheart's solo series is in Phase 5, and it would be cool if they allow her to have some of that story set in Wakanda. And I do still hope they find a way to work in Storm to the world of Wakanda, and maybe Ironheart is the way to do it. Tragically, they can't keep the Storm and T'Challa love story, but maybe Storm could still play a part in the story by becoming her own type of friend and mentor to Riri Williams. Maybe whatever reason Riri is in Wakanda in the first place could also bring Storm, and the two develop their own special bond. So this one is a weird one. Agatha, Coven of Chaos is obviously centered on Agatha, but what if the show found a way to bring back a version of Scarlet Witch that's more of the mutant that she was in earlier comics? I have no idea what Agatha's show is going to be about, but not having Wanda in it feels like a missed opportunity. But since our version of Wanda is buried under a pile of rubble, we need to get creative. I would like to see a version of the show that sees Agatha confronted by different versions of her now worst enemy, and one of them could be mutant Scarlet Witch in a fun nod to her original comic origins. I just don't want to lose Elizabeth Olsen, okay? Daredevil Born Again will have 18 episodes, and it makes you wonder just what threats Matt Murdock is going to face. He can't just fight Kingpin for that long. He needs to mix it up a bit. I think a really fun sort of adversary to Daredevil would be Gambit. Everyone is probably aware of the solo Gambit movie's troubled production and eventual cancellation, but now there's a chance to fix that. Just like Charlie Cox was rescued from non-MCU oblivion, maybe Channing Tatum can be as well. Before he was part of the X-Men, Gambit Gambit was part of a thieves guild, and that's the type of enemy I want to see Daredevil fight. It's the exact type of fun, street-level-esque baddies with a fun twist that I think would make Daredevil a super fun show. Both are skilled hand-to-hand fighters, and of course, Gambit has his flaming card projectiles. Maybe Daredevil Born Again could also represent characters who need to be born again, and Gambit is almost on top of that list. Moon Knight Season 2 isn't announced yet, but there's still hope. And I'll keep that hope alive by saying I want the X-Force included in the project. I just think it would be cool if Moon Knight Season 2 explored more of Mark Spector's mercenary past, and maybe he could have had some interaction with the mercenary-esque X-Force team. The members don't even matter that much as long as there's a group of mutants out there and Mark Spector has history with them, opens the door even further for mutants in the MCU. Spider-Man 4 also isn't announced yet, but it's only a matter of time. And given No Way Home's success and the recent Sonyverse issues with Morbius, I could see Sony insisting the MCU make another Spider-Man movie as soon as possible and slot it in Phase 5. And I've talked in the past about how much I want Spider-Man to team up with Daredevil or even Human Torch in the next movie, but there's one hero I haven't mentioned yet, Miss Marvel. Can you imagine the energy these two would have in the same scene? They're just so pure and so excitable that I think that would be a really fun adventure. Plus, they're basically the same age, so I think they would vibe well. Peter needs superhero friends his own age, right? And I can include Miss Marvel on this list since she's now a mutant. What hijinks would Kamala and Peter get up to in their own team-up project? Let's find out. I know it's not happening, but I kind of wish Phase 5 ended with a mutant or an X-Men movie just to really shake things up. But what do you think? Do you think mutants should be gradually introduced, or should the MCU wait a bit? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching CBR.